About 40% of us will be diagnosed with cancer at some point in our lifetime. And for seniors over 60, that risk naturally climbs higher. So much of it feels like just bad genetics and bad luck. But here's the empowering truth that changes everything. You can't change your genetics, but you can absolutely influence how your genes behave. And one of the most powerful ways to influence your genes and lower your cancer risk after 60 is through the food you eat every day. Because here's what most people don't realize. Many cancers aren't just a genetic disease. They're a metabolic disease and an immune function disease. And the wrong foods, even the ones we consider normal or healthy, can quietly foster the exact conditions that cancer cells need to grow and proliferate. The stress multiplier revelation. But before we dive into these foods, there's one factor that acts like gasoline on fire for everything I'm about to share, and that's chronic stress. Here's why this matters, especially for seniors. Chronic stress floods your body with cortisol, which directly suppresses your immune system, your first line of defense against cancer. But stress does something even more dangerous. It makes every single food-related cancer risk I'm about to reveal dramatically worse. When you're stressed and eat sugar, your insulin spikes higher. When you're stressed and consume processed foods, the inflammation is more severe. Stress literally amplifies every cancer-feeding mechanism in your body. So as we go through these foods, remember, managing stress isn't optional, it's essential. The cancer cell survival blueprint. Let me paint you a picture of how cancer actually works, because understanding this will change how you think about food forever. Cancer starts when a normal cell becomes abnormal, just a single mutation, which happens all the time. But for that mutated cell to survive and spread, it needs 4 specific things to fall into place, like a perfect storm. First, cancer cells need glucose as their primary energy source. They're literally sugar addicts. Second, they need hormones like insulin and IGF-1, which are growth signals telling cells to divide faster. Third, cancer cells require inflammation, which breaks down your body's barriers and suppresses your immune system. And fourth, they need a blood supply through new blood vessel formation, essentially their own lifeline for nutrients. Here's the shocking part. Many foods in our modern diet directly support every single one of these steps. But the empowering news is we can flip this script and use food as medicine instead of fuel for cancer. Food number 1. The mold toxin hiding in your pantry. We have to start with one of the most potent naturally occurring carcinogens ever known, aflatoxins. These are toxins produced by certain molds that we encounter on grains and nuts. The surprising culprits: peanuts, almonds, pistachios, walnuts, foods we think of as healthy. But here's the senior-specific danger. These toxins are particularly harmful when your immune system is already compromised by age or medications. I want to be clear, we don't want to avoid these foods completely. But we have to be smart about sourcing. Avoid nuts from humid, warm countries prone to mold contamination. Inspect every nut carefully. Discolored or shriveled ones could signal mold. The sneaky pathway. Aflatoxins also enter through dairy. When cows consume contaminated feed, a special toxin called aflatoxin M1 gets secreted into their milk. This is why choosing organic dairy or knowing your source matters more as we age. Food number 2. The sugar trap that feeds cancer cells. Here's where the science gets fascinating and terrifying. Cancer cells love sugar so much that they consume glucose 10 to 50 times faster than normal cells. This is called the Warburg effect, discovered in 1924 but more relevant today than ever. Imagine your body as trillions of tiny engines, your cells. Normal engines burn fuel efficiently using oxygen. But cancer cells are like broken engines that burn through fuel fast and wastefully. Their favorite fuel? Glucose from breads, pastas, sodas, and processed foods. Here's the double whammy. When you eat foods that spike blood sugar, your body releases insulin and IGF-1. These hormones literally send growth signals to cells saying, "Time to grow and divide." Studies show breast cancer cells can have 6 times more insulin receptors than healthy cells. The stress connection. Remember that cortisol from chronic stress? It makes your cells more insulin resistant, meaning you need even more insulin to handle the same amount of sugar. More insulin equals stronger cancer growth signals. Chloe's wake-up call. At 78, Chloe was pre-diabetic and exhausted. Her daily pastries and stress from family caregiving created the perfect storm. When she switched to steel-cut oats with berries and learned stress management, her glucose dropped 40 points in 3 months. Food number 3, the processed meat deception. The World Health Organization classified processed meats as Group 1 carcinogens, the same category as tobacco. Here's the mechanism. Processed meats contain nitrites, which your stomach acid converts to nitrosamines, compounds that directly damage DNA. Senior-specific risk. As we age, our stomach acid production often decreases, but nitrosamines can still form and are harder for aging bodies to neutralize. The inflammation cascade. These compounds trigger chronic inflammation, which suppresses immune function and creates the perfect environment for cancer cells to thrive. Add chronic stress to the mix, and this inflammation becomes even more dangerous. Food number 4, alcohol, the DNA destroyer. Even moderate alcohol consumption damages DNA through its conversion to acetaldehyde in your liver. This toxic compound directly attacks your genetic material and interferes with DNA repair mechanisms. But alcohol does something more insidious. It acts as a solvent, enhancing the absorption of other carcinogens into your tissues. It also depletes crucial B vitamins needed for cellular health and DNA synthesis. The stress amplifier. Many seniors use alcohol to manage stress, not realizing they're creating a dangerous cycle. Alcohol disrupts sleep, increases cortisol production, and amplifies inflammation, making every other cancer risk factor worse. Food number 5, the hormone highway in dairy. Conventional dairy can contain growth hormones and aflatoxin M1 from contaminated feed. These hormones can stimulate cancer cell growth, particularly in hormone-sensitive cancers. The senior consideration: many seniors rely heavily on dairy for calcium, not realizing that chronic inflammation from other sources can actually increase calcium loss from bones. The game-changing habit, the 80% rule. Here's the powerful habit that transforms everything. Stop eating when you're 80% full and give your body extended breaks from digestion. When we constantly eat to complete fullness, we force our bodies into continuous digestion mode, creating chronic inflammation and preventing a crucial cellular cleanup process called autophagy, literally self-eating. The Nobel Prize science. During fasting periods, your cells activate autophagy, breaking down damaged proteins and cellular components that could become cancerous. It's like a cellular recycling program that only works when digestion stops. Chloe's transformation. She implemented gentle 12-hour fasts, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., and the 80% fullness rule. Results in 12 weeks. 18 pounds lost without hunger. Blood pressure normalized. Inflammatory markers dropped significantly. Energy levels she hadn't felt in decades. The stress connection. Intermittent fasting actually helps regulate cortisol patterns and improves stress resilience, breaking the stress-inflammation cancer cycle. The Senior Smart Implementation. Here's your action plan that respects your body's changing needs. Week 1. Focus on stress management, deep breathing, gentle walks, or meditation. This amplifies every other change you'll make. Week 2. Implement the 80% fullness rule. Your stomach is about the size of your fist. Honor that. Week 3. Choose one processed food to eliminate. Replace with whole food alternatives. Week 4. Try a gentle 12-hour eating window, always coordinating with medication schedules. Critical for seniors. Never make changes without consulting your healthcare provider, especially if you're on medications or have existing health conditions. The most powerful realization is this: you're not powerless against your genetics. Every meal is an opportunity to influence how your genes express themselves. Which of these revelations surprised you most? Share in the comments. Your insight might be exactly what another senior needs to hear. If this information empowered you to take control of your genetic expression, please share it with other seniors in your life. Knowledge becomes power when it's shared and acted upon. Remember, you can't change your genetics, but you can absolutely change how they behave. And that changes everything.